Hey guys, weekend energy update. We got a lot to get into this weekend and we do have some shifting vibes going on. How things feel on Friday is probably not how they're going to feel in the energy of Sunday. Things are, I would say, deepening and intensifying as we move through the weekend, and there is a sense of building emotional tension once we get into Saturday that is going to carry us through Monday, actually, when our full moon in Scorpio occurs. Now, on Friday, this is definitely the more like upbeat, optimistic, lighthearted day of the weekend. I would say this energy does favor all things social, conversational. There could be some very positive or productive meetings, conversations, maybe some good ideas or opportunities or options that we find ourselves being acquainted with. And it should be just generally a pretty like feel-good day on Friday. However, as we move into the energy of Saturday, the moon will leave Libra, enter Scorpio, come into a conjunction with the black moon, come into a square with Pluto. That right there is speaking to a level of perhaps emotional turmoil, emotional volatility, or at least some deep emotions that we have sort of going on, playing out. This could also really be triggering some fears, especially in terms of subconscious fears of loss that could have people acting out, especially in terms of possessiveness, jealousy, competitiveness, and people just may not be their most lovely self as we move through the energy of Saturday and Sunday. Now, we also have Mercury entering Taurus on Saturday. This is interesting. This is definitely going to bring a vibe shift as well, especially in terms of where our mental focus is more oriented. We'll be talking about Mercury and Taurus in the report for today, but especially considering we have this black moon activation in the sign of Scorpio that has to do with subconscious fears of loss, and Mercury entering Taurus. Both of these things are like letting me know that people could be just sort of fixated on like their stuff or their partners or their relationships in a way that maybe a little bit obsessive as we move throughout the course of the weekend. And you know, we've got a lot to talk about. I do actually think also as we move into next week's probably going to be a weird week. There could be some like shocking or surprising or just like highly unexpected or unanticipated twists and turns of circumstance and events that are just like coming into play, like falling all around us. And I do think that they're going to be of a more beneficial or positive or like productive nature in terms of helping us to like move forward with something very I don't know, interesting week that we are on the precipice of moving into. And so all that being said, you guys, let's just get into it. Let's take a look at how energy is lining itself up for us Friday as we get the week started, what's going on Saturday and Sunday as we move through the weekend, and how energy is setting itself up for us as we prepare to enter next week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Friday, May 9th, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the weekend, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we're just going to take a good look at the energy that we have present as we move through our weekend this weekend and how things are setting themselves up for us as we prepare to enter next week. And as I said in my intro, next week is an interesting week to me. We've got a couple of things going on, a couple of things building that in combination, I do think could lead to some very interesting, like intriguing, unexpected twists and turns of like fate, okay, in a positive direction. So it'll be interesting. It's like the missing pieces of things could be being just like dropped on our doorstep or something like that, okay, as we move into the energy of next week. And we'll get there. There's specifically 3 different things that I'm looking at, but as we enter this weekend and just in terms of what we have going on in the present, I do think overall it's probably a pretty chill weekend. There aren't any like super, I don't know, like big time transits and activations happening right now this weekend. Again, as I said, we are building into some new transits that are going to actually come into fruition at the end of next week and next weekend, which I just got done referencing, and they're going to be doing some, I think, like unique and interesting things for us. But right now we're kind of, and I was saying this in my video for Monday about this week, in a bit of an energetic lull this week, although that Scorpio moon is I don't know, it's poking a little bit. It could be putting a bit of like salt in some wounds, and again, like emotional turmoil, emotional volatility, or just some deep and like cathartic maybe emotional responses, or like emotional purge, emotional release. Like this is just sort of the nature of how things are likely to be more oriented on Saturday and Sunday. This is a much more like deep and complex emotional energy than what we have going on Friday. Friday is the more lighthearted vibe of the weekend for sure. The moon transiting through the sign of Libra. Also, while Venus is in the sign of Aries and coming into a trine with Jupiter and Gemini, I think that there could be like Friday is a good day. It's like a good like networking, like schmoozing, you know, like just mixing with people, I guess you could say, type of vibe. There could be some very like positive or productive connections that are made that are of a more beneficial nature, or that do help us to like get ahead or help us to like grow or expand somehow. There could be some like very good ideas or like opportunities that are coming in the context of like some social dynamic or as a result of our interaction with other people somehow. So, you know, I recommend if you have things going on like that this weekend, don't skip out on them. This is a good day on Friday to be out and about, and again, like in the mix of things. You may just happen upon someone or something or some piece of information that is beneficial in terms of your ability to like move forward with something. And I'm saying that really because we do have the moon transiting through the sign of Libra, right? This is an air sign, so thoughts, ideas, communication. Libra is also cardinal air. This is about like initiating something, starting something through the way that our mind is working or what we're talking about or what we're thinking about. This is a initiating ideas type of energy. And we also have Venus right now, who is the ruler of the sign of Libra. I always say when we've got a planet transiting a sign, making an aspect, we need to check out what's happening with the ruler of that sign to get a better idea of how that energy is expressing. Venus, therefore, ruling the sign of Libra, where the moon is in the sign of Aries, this is about what we need to do to get ahead, to move forward, to go after our desires. And then the moon in Libra, that air sign, right? Thinking about what we need to do to get ahead, talking about what we need to do next to move forward somehow, coming into a trine with Jupiter and Gemini. This is an expansive energy, but it also is about ideas, opportunities, conversation. Obviously, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. This is the messenger planet, and Gemini has a lot to do with the back and forth and the conversational element and component of things as well. So we've got the moon in the sign of Libra, that is of course, you know, this air sign energy, as I just said, ideas, communication, what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, and then trining Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, right? This is big ideas, expansive conversation, options and opportunities that are coming through, and trines facilitate things. So therefore, that combination of energy, moon in Libra, trining Jupiter and Gemini, while Venus is in the sign of Aries, is a recipe to me for some type of positive interaction or positive influx of information of an expansive nature that helps us to move forward and get ahead or go after something or like take the next step towards getting something that we want somehow. So therefore, it would make sense to put ourselves in a position to perhaps receive that information that could be coming through on Friday. So that's the vibe. And also the moon, you know, this is our emotions, this is how we're feeling about things in a trine to Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. This is probably uplifting, expansive, like broad mind. And in the sign of Libra also, it's like an open heart and just a more positive mental frame towards things. This is an optimistic mental attitude. So Friday, I think, is going to be the day that has the better feels. And if you need to, you know, be around people, if you need to like ask for a favor or something as well, do it in the energy of Friday. Do not do it in the energy of Saturday and Sunday. People are likely to be much more generous, much more like gregarious and willing to give and like offer a helping hand in the energy of Friday. As we move into Saturday though, I feel like that does shift relatively dramatically because we have like two different situations going on. Mercury entering Taurus is going to make us just like a bit more mentally oriented, to be like possessive of our stuff, like thinking about what we have, thinking about our resources, thinking about our possessions. And then simultaneous to that, the moon will enter the sign of Scorpio, you know, come into an opposition with Mercury, who's just entering Taurus, but come into a conjunction with the black moon and also a square to Pluto. So whereas people are more likely to be, you know, kind of generous and willing to give in the energy of Friday, on Saturday, it's like, ooh, people could be clamping down. Be very careful, okay? Like overdoing it in the energy of Friday. That's one of the only red flags when we're dealing with like a Jupiter moon or a Jupiter Venus energy, is like overindulging, overdoing, overcommitting, overpromising, overinvesting, over idealizing, stuff like that. So there could be actually some of that is going on Friday, and people could be having a bit of like buyer's remorse, or wanting to like pull back, or just feeling perhaps like a bit triggered by fears of loss in terms of maybe whatever it is they were engaging in the energy of Friday. So it's possible that those two things could play together, but that is the vibe shift between Friday and Saturday. Things are definitely, I think people are definitely clamping down a bit and like holding things tighter and closer to the chest as we move into the energy of Saturday. This is definitely a much more intense vibe that we are, deep and intense and like complex vibe that we are moving into, as opposed to the more, I would say, surface level superficial vibe that we had going on with the Jupiter Gemini trining the moon in Libra on Friday. So just to wrap up the energy of Friday, this is a creative and inspired mental energy day as well. It does also promote like good taste, and I would say kind of like an eye for aesthetic appeal. Also, like this is a very good design, art, fashion, beauty oriented energy. And it is also, again, I think probably bringing in some ideas, or just like something that assists us in terms of whatever it is that we are building, creating, or wanting to like move forwards or go after. Positive connections are probably being made on Friday. And it's also a really great day to just like do something fun, something that you enjoy. But again, like be careful overdoing it, overcommitting, overindulging. That can sometimes happen, and we don't want to find ourselves like really feeling like the need to pull back somehow as we move into Saturday and Sunday. Now let's start talking more specifically about the energy of Saturday. Saturday, as I've already mentioned, is the day that we have Mercury entering the sign of Taurus. This is going to bring a vibe shift in terms of how our mind is oriented, you know, what it is that we're more so thinking about and focused on over this next couple of weeks, what the topics of conversation are, and generally just like, I think what is kind of like captivating our mind. That's whenever we have Mercury transiting through a specific sign, we are more naturally oriented towards whatever the main themes and like archetypes of that sign are. So therefore, Mercury in the sign of Taurus is going to orient us more towards building, growth, partnership, leisure, indulgence, and pleasure. To me, when I think of the Taurus energy, it's like a very determined, willful, hard-working energy. This is very stubborn, very hard-headed. It's like the bullheaded, like that comes from Mercury Taurus energy, like that expression. But it also like really wants to enjoy like the splendors of its labor, you know, like the fruit of its labor. There is a like indulgent streak in the Taurian energy too. Taurus is a super sensory sign, like sensual sign. It has like the physical senses are very dominant in strong Taurian energy. And so when we've got a Mercury Taurus energy, things to do with the senses are going to be of a stronger focus, like how things look, the aesthetic appeal, the smell of something, the taste of something, also like the form of something. It's about the builder. Taurus energy has a ability to like just make things either, you know, look very good, taste very good, be very like functional or purposeful in their finished design. It's all about what we're building, what we're creating, and the resources, what we have in order order to, you know, follow through on whatever that pursuit is. It also has to do with stability and security and assets and potential. What we have, what we can do with what we have in order to get something like that produces abundance or stability or security, or is just like something that we want. It's ruled by Venus, okay? And it also has to do with partnerships. It also has to do with projects. It's a very project and financially oriented, material oriented, desire oriented, like mindset energy as well. As I just mentioned, can also be extremely stubborn, extremely hard-headed, determined, and also though, on the other octaves of things, it can be a very mentally lazy energy as well. With Taurus, it's like when we're working, but when we're not working, we're not working. Again, like the polarity that's kind of going on there between putting in the effort to build and grow something, but then also the luxury and the comfort and the abundance and the indulgence that is associated with whatever is produced through the labor that was executed on. Okay, so very aesthetic, very keen eye for making things beautiful or just work really well, bringing things together, putting things together. This is a grounded mental energy, and it is more rooted, again, like in the senses. What is tangible? What is practical? I don't think there's probably like a whole lot of Mercury and Taurus people who are like, for example, you know, very into things such as astrology. Like this is an energy that is oriented towards what we can see, what we can touch, what we can like do with the hands, you know, what we can partake in like the 3D physical tangible world around us. So that's the vibe shift that is going on this weekend. Like you may find yourself more oriented towards, I don't know, building something, doing a project, renovating something, redesigning something, doing a garden, painting a picture. It's also a very artistic energy. So yeah, that's building projects and stuff like that. That's where this energy is pulling us as we move now and through this next couple of weeks. Now, it's also interesting to me because, as I said, we have the moon entering Scorpio on Saturday as well, which means, I mean, Mercury is going to be at 0 degrees of Taurus, right? Just entering the sign, and the moon is entering the sign of Scorpio. So the moon first thing is going to come into an opposition with Mercury upon entering Scorpio, and also then immediately come into a conjunction with the black moon, who's at like 3 degrees of Scorpio right now as well. And also a square to Pluto, who has just stationed retrograde at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So this is for sure intensifying and deepening that Venus energy that we had go on yesterday. And Mercury and Taurus, as I just got done explaining, it's like mind on my money. Like it's all about what I have, my resources, my possessions, my material stuff, and what I'm gonna do with it. And then the moon enters Scorpio, opposes Mercury, conjoins the black moon, squares Pluto. This could immediately be triggering some shadow side issues, fears, worries, insecurities, doubts, centering around subconscious fears of loss of exactly what our mind is now like mentally geared and oriented around. This could also be security. This could also be stability. This could have to do with partnerships. This could have to do with projects that we're working on as well. But the black moon in the sign of Scorpio, if you guys have been following my channel, I've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, as the black moon just recently began a new 9-month transit of the sign of Scorpio. Black moon in Scorpio has a tendency to trigger subconscious fears of loss. This can therefore manifest in behaviors such as being jealous, possessive, competitive. We don't want to lose here. With Mercury now in Taurus and like the moon being there could just be like, again, like people could really be like clamping down and holding on to things in a quite maybe like obsessive or compulsive way as we enter the energy of Saturday as a result of the lunar influence and that black moon opposed Mercury and Taurus squaring Pluto. People could also be, I think, picking fights in order to test loyalty in relationships. I would not be surprised if people are you know, more conflict oriented and literally like looking for conflict, like trying to provoke people to see how they'll respond on in situations out of like certain tests of loyalty. And I'm saying loyalty because Mars right now is in the sign of Leo, and that moon in Scorpio is going to be squaring Mars in Leo Saturday into Sunday as well. And of course, Mars has to do with conflict. There could be ego battles going on. There could be a lot of hurt feelings that actually transpire throughout the course of the weekend as well. As I was saying, this is a much more emotionally volatile energy that we've got going on as we head Saturday into Sunday. Obsessions, compulsions, addictions could be things and themes that are coming up and that we're dealing with. And people could also just be like showing or embodying more so than normal their dark side, or the dark side of situations that they're dealing with, maybe acting or reacting out of fear combined with like toxic emotions. Okay, detox is a very, very good way to use the energy this weekend in all of its forms. So if you're going through, you know, something like this internally, or you find yourself interfacing with somebody that seems to be presenting these qualities, it really just is what it is. Like the black moon triggers our shadow side issues, which are the fears, worries, insecurities, and doubts generally stemming from subconscious situations going on within us that we're largely unaware of. And as a result of that, they have a tendency of holding a tremendous amount of power over the way that we act and react to things. Actually, each month when the black moon is triggered, regardless of the sign that it's in, I feel like that is when we are given an opportunity to gain a greater awareness of the darker nature of ourselves or of our own shadow side issues, because they have a tendency of being triggered and coming to the forefront. So if you find yourself, again, navigating a situation like this, whether it's you being triggered about something or you witnessing somebody else being super triggered about something, it's a good moment in time to kind of like tap into that and try to get down into the core or the root of that issue, because there is a true opportunity also for like healing, regeneration, and overcoming some of these tendencies, or some of these maybe just like habits or ways of being, or the subconscious programming that has previously perhaps been responsible for maybe some of the ways that we get triggered and act out and, you know, do things that are not necessarily in our best interest or not necessarily aligned with what it is, you know, that we really want to do, or who it is that we really want to be, or the type of relationships that we really want to have. So I do think this weekend is presenting a good opportunity for us to be sort of like psychic detectives in a way, in terms of maybe uncovering some of our own deeper issues and taking power back from perhaps some of these like unhealed wounds or the subconscious programming that maybe has held power over us and the trajectory and course of our life and decisions and reactions to things in the past. So it is a powerful weekend. There's a very, very powerful, again, like emotional energy this weekend. Very, very good for solving root issues like catharsis, letting things go, purge, release, regeneration, renewal of some of that maybe like toxic emotional baggage that we've been carrying for a long period of time. And perhaps some of this black moon energy coming in is like pushing us to a point where maybe we can finally see it. Okay, or maybe we can finally, like, on the other end of that, like, see it in other people in a way that maybe, you know, we can stop letting other people's emotions and reactions impact us to the same extent that maybe they had in the past as well. When we've got black moon energy going on, this has a lot to do with projection and mirroring, and we don't want to be taking on and internalizing other people's emotional responses and projections to things in this energy as well. So it's an important time also to kind of like have a strong or like a thorough boundary between like what is our stuff, like what our issues are, what we are working on, and what is somebody else's issues that they are, you know, projecting onto us because they're unaware, okay, of that dynamic going on within themselves. So if you catch yourself projecting this weekend, this is a good time to, you know, reel it back in and, you know, reflect that more inwards. Or if you find someone else projecting this weekend, this is a good weekend not to emotionally attach to that and internalize that and allow that to like control your image of yourself. But inner healing, okay, introspection, that type of stuff, very, very good use of energy this weekend. There could be some necessary purge, okay, that is associated with this. This also could be with this Black Moon Scorpio influence this weekend. There could be something about uncovering or discovering something that perhaps has been hidden, secrets, like things that have been festering in some dark corner somewhere, toxicity, abuse of power, corruption. This type of thing could be relevant with the whole concept of like the shining light into the shadows vibe that is being brought up with this energy as well. So you can see how there could be an element of emotional volatility that is present this weekend in the context of the way that these energetic dynamics could be playing themselves out. Also remember, and as I mentioned earlier, energy, emotional tension is building throughout the course of the weekend. There is this full moon in Scorpio that is coming up on Monday. When the moon enters Scorpio on Saturday, we are building into obviously the Scorpio full moon. So there could be things that are like triggered or activated in the energy of Saturday that are kind of just building and find their release intention somehow actually on Monday. In, you know, maybe it could be quite a surprising or unexpected way while we have this full moon come through. It is in a conjunction opposition to Uranus. It's not exact, but Uranus is a power feature of our energetic electric universe right now. So Uranus shakes things up. It is the shock factor. It does bring, you know, expect the unexpected energy. So there could be something, again, like some sudden twist or turn that was unanticipated that accompanies whatever is like releasing the tension that has been building throughout the course of the weekend as we move through our Scorpio moon energy Saturday through Monday. Now, let's talk about Sunday for a minute, you guys. Hey, this is also just kind of like a bit of like an emotionally heated day. On Saturday, as I said, it's the moon, black moon conjunction, moon and square to Pluto. Then on Sunday, the moon transiting through Scorpio actually does square Mars in the sign of Leo. This could be aggressive, you know what I mean? Like this could be short-tempered. There could be some type of internal conflict going on. There could be some type of conflict going on within the home and the family. This is a more hot-headed, like, again, emotionally volatile energy. It is also triggering fears. People are also probably acting out. Again, I just like, it feels like one of those vibes where people are like testing people, you know what I mean? Like picking fights, like doing things in order to like see what people's reactions are going to be and to see like how far they can push people out of ultimately this subconscious fear of loss that wants to know, you know, how loyal someone is. Mars in the sign of Leo, this is very egocentric energy on one hand, it can be, but it also puts a very strong emphasis on loyalty, like ride or die energy. Okay, so if you feel like someone is pressing your buttons just to kind of like get a reaction to see if you're gonna push them away or not, it could be some type of just like subconscious power play that is going on as a result of this particular lunar dynamic that we've got setting up between the moon in Scorpio and Mars and Leo in square on Sunday. And again, this is also the competitiveness, the possessiveness, hurt feelings, wounded emotions could come from whatever transpires in this. And it is more of this very stubborn, very fixated, very determined, almost like relentless type of energy as well. Maybe leave people alone, honestly, after Friday. I would give people space. As I said, this is a good weekend to like sort through your own issues, really be more Mars in the sign of Leo, right? Like this is about the self, being more like self-focused, self-oriented, maybe just having some like quality alone time is probably better than going head to head with people who could be really, really struggling to keep a handle on their emotions. And again, like lashing out or projecting out based on these unconscious or subconscious fears of loss that could be being triggered here. Detox is the ultimate best use of energy. I do feel like this weekend and building into the full moon as well, which is also a very detox oriented full moon in the sign of Scorpio. I mean, detox and Scorpio really kind of go hand in hand at its core. That is the one of the powers of Scorpio energy, the ability to get to the root of something, to clear it out, to regenerate it into, you know, rebirth and renewal, death and rebirth, transformation. So that's what we've got going on, you guys. Now, we have some additional energy that is coming into play as we move through the weekend this weekend, building next week, that will come exact actually next weekend. And I've kind of alluded to this a few times throughout the report, but there's 3 specific things that I'm looking at that are building as we move into the weekend. Number 1, we do now have the sun within a 5-degree orb conjunction to Uranus. That is going to do some things for us we'll talk about in a minute. Number 2, Jupiter in the sign of Gemini is coming into square with the nodes of the moon. This is a mutable square. The nodes of the moon are in Pisces and Virgo. Jupiter's in the sign of Gemini. So we've got the sun coming into a conjunction with Uranus and Taurus, and we've got Jupiter and Gemini squaring the nodes of the moon. And both of these energies are going to be exact actually next weekend on the same day. The third thing that I'm looking at that we have going on is Saturn right now is about to move to the last degree, the 29th degree of the sign of Pisces. Saturn is about to be at the very, very last critical degree of the entire zodiac, and therefore on the verge of entering Aries, beginning a new cycle around the entire zodiac, and also coming into conjunction with Neptune. This is also a major energetic dynamic and shift, endings and beginnings, you guys, that is being highly emphasized here. So when we put all of these, and again, that will also be happening next weekend. Next weekend, Saturday into Sunday, we're going to have the exact Sun-Uranus conjunction, while Jupiter is exactly square the nodes of the moon, and Saturn is at 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces. This combination of energetic activations all hitting at the same time, to me, is speaking of perhaps some, as I've said, shocking twist of fate for the better, or some maybe sudden, unexpected or unanticipated growth or release from something. This is actually, I'm like looking forward to talking about this energy next week. It's like, this feels like a magical energy. The sun and Uranus together in the sign of Taurus, that can be, you know, that's a shock factor, right? That can be very destabilizing. That can really like shake the foundations and upset the comfort zones. And it is happening in Algol, so we'll have to get into that as well. If you guys have been following my channel or following astrology generally, you may have heard of the fixed star Algol, which is where Uranus is located right now, and it is known, it's the Medusa star. It is known as, it can have connotations of like losing our head, losing our mind. And I've spoken about it, and we'll talk more about it as we get into the energy of next week. But generally, you know, the sun and Uranus coming into the conjunction in the sign of Taurus, whether they're at Algol or not. And then Jupiter also coming into a square with the nodes of the moon, like exactly at the same time. And then also Saturn being at the very, very last degree of the zodiac. This is also talking to me about like some karmic liberation or some end of a karmic cycle that is being introduced through some unexpected twist or turn of fate, in a way like that, like puts the pieces together in a way that promotes growth, promotes forward movement, but changes things like in ways that we definitely wouldn't have expected. So there could be some twists or turns coming in next week, or this also makes me feel like sort of the missing piece just kind of like falling into our lap, or us turning the corner and bumping right into exactly who it was that we needed to, you know, give us this final piece or element of something that we'd been waiting on or something in order to, I don't know, but it has to do with growth. It has to do with expansion. It has to do with liberation. It has to do with karma. It has to do with like being at a crossroads, and then also things being fixed, things being put back on track, some type of sudden awakening. I don't know, but the end of some long cycle, and perhaps an unanticipated opportunity, solution, connection, or idea, I feel like is pending. That's like where we're heading as we head into the energy of next week. So maybe some beneficial surge or expansion somehow could be on the horizon. And the full moon on Monday, I think, is where we could find ourselves perhaps beginning to align with this energy, or whatever that thing is could start being highlighted, or we could start coming into contact with whatever it is. Okay, so next week should be an interesting week. That's really pretty much how I feel about things. I'm going to get one final synchronicity card for us, a piece of advice, guidance from God, Spirit, Universe. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? What do we need to tell ourselves? And interestingly, our card says decide. And a house divideth against a house falleth. Luke 11:17. When you cannot make up your mind about something, you are battling in your own mind. Your house is unstable. Come to a clear-cut decision about a situation and follow what is good and right. Stick to that decision. Do not waver. Okay, so it's interesting too, because, you know, Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, this has a lot to do with choices and decisions, and it could be quite an indecisive energy. There could be a lot of like options and opportunities and stuff being presented this weekend, but you know, this obviously our guidance is saying that if you are at a point, you know, where you've been sort of like half in and half out of something, maybe like this is energy where it's time to decide, it's time to, you know, choose a path, choose a way, and things could be presenting this weekend that for some reason make that necessary. And that's our guidance here. That's our advice. So come to a clear-cut decision about a situation and follow what is good and right. Stick to that decision and do not waver. So that is our guidance for the weekend, you guys. And that's what I have to say in the video for today. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys, share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments. I'm so grateful for your presence on my channel. I truly appreciate your feedback, what you guys have to say, and especially knowing how this energy is affecting you out there. If you are having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. That is valuable information to me. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I take pictures of the whiteboards and I post them in a Facebook group that I have that is linked in my description box below. That's where you can find that. And come back with me on Monday, you guys. I should have 3 videos out next week. I should be back to my normal recording schedule unless something crazy happens next week, but I'll definitely be back for you guys on Monday. We do have that full moon coming in, and as I said, next week is probably going to be a very interesting week, so I'll be back to talk all about it. You don't want to miss it, and I will see you then. Have a really good weekend, everybody, and until next time, bye guys.